Alright captains, today we're settling one of the greatest debates in World of Warships history. Which of these so-called supercruisers truly deserves the crown? Since the dawn of time, or at least since WG started adding these overpowered monsters to the game, players have been arguing about which one reigns supreme. Well, we're putting an end to that debate right here, right now. We've got all the heavy hitters lined up for evaluation today. From Germany, we've got Clausewitz. America brings Jacksonville and Annapolis. The British have Edgar. Russia's offering is Novosibirsk. Italy weighs in with Piemonte, and finally we've got the French with Conde, which might just be the most broken of them all. Here's how we're ranking these beasts. At the very top we've got S tier, the godlike cruisers. Then we've got A tier, strong ship. B tier is where we put the good enough ships, and finally C tier, the utterly useless ships that make you wonder why anyone would bother grinding them. First up in our super cruiser ranking is the German beast Clausewitz, a ship that WG insists on calling a supercruiser, but really plays more like a battle cruiser that forgot its identity. This thing takes everything you know about German cruisers and cranks it up to 11, for better or worse. Let's start with the guns. 12 to 110mm rifles that pack a serious punch. The AP shells have that classic German penetration magic, capable of punishing broadside cruisers and even giving battleships something to think about at mid-range. The HE isn't anything special, but gets the job done with decent fire chance. Where these guns really shine is the reload. A quick 12 seconds between salvos means you can keep up a steady stream of pain. The accuracy is workable at 1.9 sigma, though don't expect Montana levels of precision. What really sets Clausewitz apart are its tools. Unlike most supercruisers, this one comes equipped with torpedoes, 2 quad launchers per side with 8 km range. They're not the fastest or hardest hitting, but they give you that close range threat that can make pushing enemies think twice. You also get hydroacoustic search, a rare and valuable tool in the supercruiser world that lets you spot incoming torpedoes before they ruin your day. And for those long-range engagements, there's a spotter plane to extend your reach when needed. The armor is a mixed bag in typical German fashion. When angled properly, the belt armor can bounce cruiser shells all day, and the turtleback citadel protection helps against those devastating citadel hits. But let's be real, this thing is massive, with a superstructure so big it might as well have a bullseye painted on it. Heat spammers will have a field day with you if you're not careful. After putting Clausewitz through its paces, it lands solidly in our A tier, strong but not quite godlike. The combination of reliable guns, useful tools, and decent armor makes it a formidable opponent, but its massive size and vulnerability to heat spam keep it from the very top tier. If you enjoy German cruisers but wish they had a bit more versatility, Clausewitz might just be your perfect match. Ah yes, the Jacksonville. You just know when America builds a ship, it's gonna be big, brawny, and full of freedom-fueled firepower. They don't mess around with subtlety. They drop cruisers like Jacksonville that scream, "I will outgun you," and look good doing it. And in World of Warships, Jacksonville truly lives up to that energy. This ship is a menace and one of the most well-rounded supercruisers you can get your hands on. It's the kind of ship that makes you feel like you're always in control of the engagement, even when you're getting focused by half the enemy team. First up, the rate of fire is just nuts. It spits shells like a heavy cruiser with caffeine addiction. Combine that with the special American improved HE penetration, and you've got a recipe for cooking battleships alive, especially if they dare to show broadside. It's like the Jacksonville says, "Hey BBs, here's a fire party," and you're invited whether you like it or not. And don't forget, she's packing radar, which means destroyers, good luck. You try to contest the cap while Jacksonville is lurking, and boom, you're spotted, burned, and back in port before your engine boost even kicks in. And the guns? Absolute unit status. They're 15 American 152mm dual-purpose rifles that hit like a freight train when you land those salvos. Great shell arcs, easy to aim with a reload fast enough to keep the pressure non-stop. This isn't a cruiser that pokes. This is a cruiser that slaps. You overextend, she'll punish you. You smoke up, doesn't matter, she's got radar. You island camp, she'll just lob shells over with ease. Now, let's talk armor. Jacksonville isn't invincible, but she's got enough armor to tank a good chunk of punishment, especially if you angle right. She doesn't melt like some of the other supercruisers out there, and don't even get me started on the maneuverability. This is why she gets the godlike rating. Top of the mountain, S tier, the gold standard of what a supercruiser should be. Jacksonville isn't just strong, she's the ship other cruisers secretly wish they were. Alright, it's time to talk about Annapolis, the other big American supercruiser. Now look, when you see the stars and stripes on a ship in World of Warships, your brain immediately assumes it's gonna slap. And yeah, Annapolis does slap, just not as hard as her cousin Jacksonville. She's like the overachieving sibling who gets good grades and has all the right tools, but still somehow doesn't end up being valedictorian. There's no doubt she's strong, but when you stack her up against the big dogs in the Super Cruiser Club, she starts to show a few cracks. Let's start with the good stuff. First off, she's American, which means she gets radar, and not just regular radar, but 12K radar with a long duration. That's instant value in any game mode. Whether you're hunting destroyers, locking down caps, or defending your flank, that radar is gonna be clutch. Plus, she's got that alternative fire mode, burst fire, which is straight up hilarious when you catch a broadside. But here's the thing, while her DPM looks amazing on paper, she's still firing 203 ME gun. That's fine for a heavy cruiser, but this is the Super Cruiser League. When you're up against ships with 305S, 380S, or even just thicker armor and bigger health pools, those 203S start to feel a little underwhelming. Then there's the survivability issue. Annapolis doesn't have the beefiest armor or the thickest health pool. If you get caught out of position, especially by battleship or some of the nastier cruisers with bigger calibers, you're gonna melt. And don't even try open water kiting against accurate BBs. Your superstructure is basically a big floating shoot here sign. So overall, Annapolis is a solid ship, fun to play, strong in capable hands, and packed with potential. But when it comes to straight up impact, she just doesn't bring the same god tier dominance as some others in this tier. Good, reliable, and still absolutely a threat, but not quite the final boss of supercruisers. That's why she lands in B tier, the strong category. Dangerous, powerful, but not unstoppable. Alright, British cruisers are here, and you already know they bring in the tea, the sass, and the most confusing gimmicks imaginable. Enter Edgar, the British supercruiser that's basically Minotaur's taller, buffer, and somehow even more situational cousin. At first glance, she looks like she's gonna be an absolute menace. You've got that alternative fire mode, you've got the classic Royal Navy super heal that turns you into a cockroach that just refuses to die, and you've even got the choice between radar or smoke, which lets you adapt your playstyle based on how spicy the enemy team is feeling. Sounds awesome, right? Well, hold your horses, because it's not all scones and sunshine with Edgar. The big thing, the huge thing, is that she only fires AP shells. No he, nada, zip, just armor-piercing dreams and shattered expectations. That means you basically have to catch people showing you their juicy broadsides, or you're just going to be tickling them with sad little shatters. Now, on the survivability side, she's got that British cruiser DNA. The armor is decent enough to shrug off small calibers and troll some shells, but you're still going to get deleted if a battleship sneezes in your direction. However, the super heal is a lifesaver. Literally, you can take a punch, fall back, hit the heal button, and come back like it's round 2 of a heavyweight match. And if you run smoke instead of radar, you can play that sneaky ambush role, popping in and out of cover like a royal ghost ship. Maneuverability wise, she's not too bad. Not the slipperiest thing on the water, but certainly good enough to reposition and kite when needed. It helps when you're trying to avoid attention, which, spoiler alert, you should always be doing unless you're setting up that perfect AP clap. In the end, Edgar is one of those ships that's incredibly fun in the right hands and with the right matchmaking, but she's just too situational to compete with the top supercruisers. She's got personality, no doubt, but in terms of raw effectiveness, she's a bit of a niche pick. That's why she lands in the C tier. Good enough, but definitely not meta-breaking. Play her for fun, not for rank domination. Alright, comrades, it's finally time to bring in the Russian bias, and you already know we're talking about the heavy hitter of the East, Novosibirsk. This ship doesn't just send shells, it sends statements. You want to talk about firepower? Novosibirsk comes with some of the highest AP shell penetration in the entire cruiser class. I mean, seriously, this thing can citadel a Satsuma or a Maine if they even think about showing broadside. Yamato? More like Yamato tossed. If you're in a battleship and you see this thing aiming at you from 18 chem, just start praying or turning, preferably both. And it's not just about the boob. Novosibirsk also comes equipped with radar, so you've got solid vision control. I can catch destroyers destroyers hiding in smoke like it's a game of Russian hide and seek. Spoiler, they lose. You'd expect a glass cannon with that much firepower, but nope, the armor is pretty decent. It's not tanking entire broadsides, but it can definitely take a punch or two without exploding into post-Soviet confetti. The maneuverability isn't amazing, but it's not a total brick either. You've got just enough agility to kite, reposition, and dodge return fire if you're paying attention, which you should be, unless you want to become a slow-moving barbecue. It doesn't have the British means like super heal or smoke, but it makes up for it by being straight up terrifying when it catches you in its sight. That damage output is no joke. It's not perfect, it struggles in close quarters and gets punished hard if it's caught out, but from mid to long range, it's a strong contender. A tier for sure. Novosibirsk doesn't just win fights, it deletes ships that thought they were safe. Play smart, aim for citadels, and watch entire health bars vanish like your credits after a dockyard event. Alright, next up we've got Italy's own flavor of chaos, supercruiser Piemonte, and at first glance it sounds like it should be insane, right? Special SAP shells, exhaust smoke generator, torpedoes, submarine surveillance radar. It's like the devs just threw everything from the Italian tech tree into a blender and said, let's make it spicy. But once you actually play it, yeah, not so spicy to the SAP. On paper, it's great. You don't need to switch ammo types, and you get that sweet pen with decent damage. You got torps too, sure, but they're standard and feel more like backup tools rather than a reliable threat. Exhaust smoke is nice for dodging or escaping, and the sub radar's cool, but let's be real, how often is that winning you a game? The guns are alright, nothing stellar, but not bad either. The reload's decent, accuracy is okay, but again, there's nothing that makes you go, wow, Piemonte OP. Armor, meh. It can tank a little if you're angled, but it's nowhere near tanky enough to brawl, and nowhere near sneaky enough to kite properly. It's caught in the middle, and that's really the issue. Piemonte doesn't excel at anything. It's a jack of all trades, but a master of none. When you're up against ships like Edgar with AP hammers, or Novosibirsk just punching citadels for fun, Piemonte's just there. Kind of vibing, occasionally doing damage, sometimes surviving. So yeah, Piemonte goes in the C tier, or as I like to call it, utter useless. Not because it's totally trash, but because in a lobby full of supercruisers, this thing's just background noise. You want to win games? You're probably not picking this ship. You're just hoping the enemy forgets you exist while you farm 50k and survive with 3k health left. Alright, time to talk about one of my absolute favorite supercruisers in the game, the mighty French flex machine Conde. Now listen, if there's ever been a cruiser that embodies the phrase style and violence, it's this baguette throwing, speed boosting, reload spamming war machine. This thing doesn't do long boring build-ups. No, Condé shows up fast, hits you like a truck, and vanishes before you realize your citadel's missing. First off, let's talk about that speed boost. This thing moves like it's trying to avoid paying taxes. You want to kite? It'll kite. You want to flank? It'll flank like it's personal. And then there's the reload booster, which is just cheating. Honestly, you pop it and suddenly you're spitting shells like it's a machine gun. That combined with alternate fire mode, you can melt a cruiser in seconds. It's basically French burst damage in all its glory. Add torpedoes on top of that. Mon Dieu, armor-wise, she's not tanky, but that's not the point. You don't play Condé to face tank. You play her to dance around islands, flex that speed boost, and make life a living hell for broadside cruisers and DDs caught out in the open. Maneuverability is smooth, responsive, just what you need when you're trying to bait shots and zip through danger zones like a caffeinated baguette. So yeah, Conde is an absolute menace if you know how to handle her. She rewards aggression, positioning, and knowing when to burst and when to kite. And for all that perks, I give her the godlike tier. And with that, we wrap up our wild tour through the world of supercruisers. This tier is full of chaos, memes, and cracked ships. Whether you're looking to main a meta monster like Jacksonville or meme around in Piemonte for the challenge, there's a playstyle for everyone. Just remember, positioning, map awareness, and a little bit of luck go a long way. Thanks for sailing with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay spicy, captains.